So, as you look back at your work with Kind, I'm just wondering, are there any particular cases that stand out to you that bring back memories that you would like to share with us?
Sure, there are lots of them to be frank, but there's one that always comes back to my mind, and he was one of the first children that I was able to interact with. That's the story of my interaction with Bryan, both initially and then throughout our relationship as attorney and client. So I met him by happenstance. Jones Day, we were partnering with both Kind and JP Morgan Chase, and it was a day of intake where we'd meet kids and interview them and sit with them for 30 minutes and learn about whether they had potential defenses to the legal proceedings they were in. And one of my colleagues was set to interview Bryan, and they needed an additional participant. It came for me on a really difficult day. I was in a difficult period. I was running the program. I was running around to different places. I really didn't have 30 minutes. And I was also getting ready for trial, and I didn't have time to make a commitment to a kid. But they needed someone at the time. And so I said, okay, 30 minutes, let me give it a shot. And the interview was like nothing I've had experienced before in my life. It's four years ago or so, and it's still, I still remember it really vividly. So Bryan, the child, he was about 14 at the time, and he told me, he recounted for me what had happened when he was 12 years old, and there was no doubt in my mind what he was telling me was genuine and was true. And the account, it's a little graphic to be candid, but let me tell you what a 14-year-old told me that he witnessed, and let people hear it. And so he was in a car with his mother and two uncles in a small village in El Salvador. And the village had been beset by gang violence. They were in the car. Heavily armed gang members directed their car to pull over, and Bryan's uncles were taken from the car. Bryan watched in horror. This is him recounting it to me. He watched in horror. Two of his uncles were executed at point blank range in front of a 12-year-old kid. Unbelievable. I mean, you hear it and think about it, it's just unbelievable. So the gang members, gunmen returned to the car, and he forbade Bryan and his mom from going to the police. And he very explicitly told Bryan that he expected him to join the gang when he was older. And the penalty on either count for going to the police or failing to join the gang was death. And you can imagine what it's like being in a room, hearing a 14-year-old Bryan recounting to me what had occurred to him just 2 years earlier when he was 12. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking. It's almost impossible to understand and to comprehend. So Bryan continued telling me what had transpired after that. Within days of the slaying, Bryan's mom confided to her sister. I'll just, for the sake of anonymity, refer to her as Maria. Bryan's mom told Maria what had occurred. Maria is a hardworking woman of modest means. She has her own two children and a partner. And she had actually never met Bryan. But once her sister told Maria what had occurred, Maria insisted that her sister arranged for Bryan to come to the United States, and she pledged for Bryan. She pledged that she would raise Bryan as one of her own children. And I was just blown away by Maria's act of generosity and her love of family, her love of her sister, and her love, the personal sacrifices that she was making for Bryan, 12-year-old child that she had never even met in her life. It was truly incredible. And so here it was. You hear about these acts of generosity and kindness and what Bryan had been through. And I thought, you know what, I have more than 30 minutes that I can commit to helping Bryan and to try to give him the opportunities that I've talked in an earlier segment with you that my own kids have. And so that's part of the story. That's sort of the sad part of the story. There's a good part of the story, and that's how Bryan has done here in the United States. And I remember my first court appearance in federal court, immigration court, and Bryan was required to be there. He had to miss school that day to attend. He was nervous, whatever. We had the records. And so we're going through the hearing, and the judge said, is Bryan in school? And if he is, he doesn't have to come to future hearings if you have proof. And thanks to the good work of kind, we were prepared for that, and we had the records. And so I had Bryan's report card, and I said, Your Honor, I have his report card. I'm happy to hand it up and give it to you. He said, please. And so I took out the report card from the folder I had. I looked at it as I was about to give it to the judge, and I looked at it. And it was straight A's. And I just said to the judge, and I hope my kids don't see this video, but I said to the judge, Judge, I wish this was my own children's report card. And I don't know what was going through the judge's mind, but he smiled when he saw the report card. He had a wide smile on his face. You don't see a lot of judges smiling wildly in immigration court. But more to the point, it gave me great satisfaction to see all the work that we had been doing, the legal team. It's not just me. There are lots of others at Jones Day who've worked on Bryan's case to see that he was taking. We tried to give him a pathway and give him an opportunity, and ultimately it was up to him to seize on that opportunity. And it was clear from his report card and other conversations we've had with him and his aunt that he was making the most of those opportunities. So now we're about 4+ years into our representation of Bryan, and he's about to receive his green card and legal status. And it's an incredible feeling. It's the best 30-minute time commitment I ever made, even though it was well more than 30 minutes.